Well, coming to you live from Jerusalem, where we're following the intense efforts to try to broker a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Let's talk about that and more with Mark Regev. He's the spokesman for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mark, thanks very much for joining us. So once again, are you close to a ceasefire in Gaza?
We don't know, because Hamas apparently says no. We saw the Hamas leader today talk publicly, and he put so many conditions on a ceasefire, he makes it impossible. Israel has shown a willingness. We have said so in the past. We've been ready for an immediate ceasefire. And Hamas makes that impossible. And in doing so, Hamas condemns both the Israelis and the Palestinians, the people of Gaza, to continued bloodshed. And Hamas is solely responsible for the continuation of this conflict.
If there's a ceasefire, would you, as a longer-term process, would you allow international monitors to go into Gaza as part of an effort to demilitarize the Gaza Strip?
Gaza should be demilitarized. There's no reason for any rockets or any terrorism whatsoever in the Gaza Strip. You know, we pulled out of Gaza, we pulled out, we took down all the settlements, we pulled back to the international frontier, and we hoped at the time that we'd be able to live in peace with Gaza, that there'd be cooperation, there'd be commerce, tourism, trade, people going back and forth. Hamas took over the Gaza Strip, and instead of having cooperation, we've had conflict.
Back to those protests we're telling you about in the occupied West Bank at the Kalandia checkpoint. Imtiaz Tayyib is there for us and reports, Imtiaz, that Israeli soldiers are shooting live fire at the protesters. Can you confirm?
Yes, I can confirm there was live fire used here. In fact, one of the satellite trucks, which is not a meter from where I'm standing now, clearly has a bullet hole right through the windshield. Now, we also understand rubber-coated steel bullets were used, and of course, tear gas canisters were fired at these protesters to disperse them. But frankly, these protesters are determined. They're determined to continue clashing with Israeli forces. They've been here for hours now, despite the fact that they've been tear gassed, despite the fact that they've been shot at. They're continuing with their protests to stand in solidarity with the people of Gaza, and of course to express their rage at Israeli forces who continue to occupy this area.
It doesn't seem like it's a situation, Imtiaz, that could escalate throughout the night.
Well, it's interesting. We've been here pretty much since these clashes erupted. It really sort of comes and goes in waves. The Israeli forces managed to push the protesters back, and then they very quickly managed to make their way forward. But again, it's a very volatile situation. We know at least 2 people have lost their lives, and around 90 are in hospital. It's expected those numbers will rise as this evening progresses. But again, a very volatile scene here at the Kalandia checkpost, an area which has seen protests over the years, but this evening is different. Tonight, this protest was called because it's an evening known as Laylat al-Qadr. Laylat al-Qadr, of course, is one of the holiest nights of the month of Ramadan.
Now, if the situation was to change, if there wasn't violence from Gaza, then the restrictions we placed on many of them to protect ourselves, they wouldn't be necessary.
But would you pull out all Israeli forces, and there are a few thousand, I'm sure, Israeli troops in Gaza right now, would you pull out all of those forces and allow international monitors to go in to police, if you will, some sort of internationally guaranteed ceasefire?
You know, part of our ethos is that we defend ourselves. We've never asked the United States or any other country to defend us.
Nick, we understand we've been following it the last few days. There's been kind of a flurry, right, of diplomatic efforts in Gaza in recent days and in surrounding areas in Egypt. And what about those efforts that are underway right now? Any headway being made?
Yeah, you and I talked about what a U.S. official told me last night, that he hoped that within about 24 to 48 hours there'd be some kind of temporary ceasefire that would give Secretary of State John Kerry the room to negotiate a longer-term ceasefire. That same official I talked to just a few minutes ago, not as bullish at all tonight. He has said, rather depressingly, frankly, that there is no progress to be reported, despite the fact that Kerry has been in Cairo and in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv over the last 24 hours. He hopes, and most U.S. officials I speak to hope, that both sides will come to the bargaining table and both sides will agree. But both sides right now, according to these officials, are very much have their positions very hardened. Hamas says that they don't trust any assurance by Israel or the U.S. or anyone else that the future will bring any kind of improvement for the lives of Gazans, notably opening up of borders, lifting the Israeli siege. And so they want to keep fighting until they can be certain that that will happen. Israel, in private conversations with officials, are saying, look, we need a little more time to eliminate all these tunnels, to destroy all the tunnels that go from Gaza into Israel. And so clearly both sides are not quite ready to sign any kind of ceasefire. Yeah. And the fear right now is, Tony, that if you get to Sunday night, there's a very big Muslim holiday here. There will be a lot of anger, especially, even more so than there is now, if the shelling continues.
Now, we cannot pull out our troops as long as those rockets keep firing down on our cities, as long as Hamas keeps trying to kill our people. Now, we cannot pull out as long as those rockets keep firing down on our cities, as long as Hamas trying to kill our people.
Well, we're talking Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mark, thanks very much for joining us. So once again, are you close to a ceasefire in Gaza?
We don't know, because Hamas apparently says no. We saw the Hamas leader today talk publicly, and he put so many conditions on a ceasefire, he makes it impossible. Israel has shown a willingness. We have said so in the past. We've been ready for an immediate ceasefire. And Hamas makes that impossible. And in doing so, Hamas condemns both the Israelis and the Palestinians, the people of Gaza, to continued bloodshed. Not pull out our troops as long as those rockets keep firing down on our cities, as long as Hamas keeps trying to kill our people.